Welcome back. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to give it an update on what's going on with Robinhood.
And of course,
Stonk Brokers.
Because it keeps going up.
Keeps going up, yeah. We're going to show you guys.
Yeah, so why is it going up? But there's other, obviously, crazy things happening on Robinhood Chain. But the craziest thing, I think, is the rumors are true. CashCat got quite the nod from Robinhood itself. Like, probably the biggest nod you can get.
Yeah, so new asset now available to trade in the app on Robinhood. This is legend. CashCat, finally.
Yeah, what the hell's his image, dude?
I don't know. That's like a Robinhood sort of iconography, but it's just...
They didn't want to put the crying cat up on there? You know,
no, they're serious, dude.
It's like, let's support it, but let's not, let's not
dumb.
let our user base know yet.
Let's not let our investors know that we're in
memecoin
shitcoin land.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Until it's proven to be a good, massive, I guess, retail hit point.
Yeah. So what did this do to the price? As you would expect,
An explosion
to all-time highs, and then
not anymore.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, So this is, you guys are gonna watch an interview this weekend if you want with Simple Farmer, the creator of Stonk Brokers, and probably his most prevalent philosophy or core tenets to what he wants to build is this idea that you want to build tokens without too much complex functionality behind them, so that when it comes to centralized exchange listing support, there isn't too much friction there, right? Because you want your coins to I guess follow a trajectory of what CashCat just did, right? But
yeah.
I kind of hit him with per my observations from last cycle, centralized exchanges are typically where coins go to die, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And he might not share that belief, and who knows? It's not really clear yet. I mean, it is clear from a statistical point of view. 90% of the market's volume is probably processed through centralized exchanges. So
yeah,
that is today's retail touch point. But I feel like if you're a real crypto bro, you don't want to see that, right? You want to build rails that are on chain, decentralized, and then bring retail to that.
Yeah, not only that, there's been signals that DEXs compete, for dollar per dollar against the sexes. So it's a viable thesis.
Yeah. So nonetheless, it's this, depending on what the price does from here, could be another further example that it had explosive growth, but
can it break all-time highs?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All right. So Stonk Brokers, where are they at? They're in the top 5 now in all of NFT land.
Yeah, last time we took a gander at the NFT leaderboards, they were at number 10, right?
Number 10, yeah.
They're quickly chugging along here. Now they're rubbing against the Titans, I would say.
Yeah, Pudgy, Autoglyphs, Bored Apes, and CryptoPunks. That's quite the...
So how much more to get past the Bored Ape?
Well, so Pudgy Penguins, here they are. So this is 33,000 ETH.
They're right there. So Pudgy is going to be flipped any second now.
Yeah, 33,000 ETH, 34. This is 44, 79, and 310,000 ETH.
So about a 3x to flip Bored Apes, right?
A 3x and then a 10x to flip CryptoPunks.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't know if it could flip CryptoPunks. That would be...
So all that means is essentially the market cap of Stonk Brokers would need to be at $300-400 million.
To do what?
To do a 10x, right? Because right now, Stonk Brokers is at a $33 million market cap.
Mm-hmm.
So a 10x is just $300 million.
Yeah, which is,
it's within earshot, right?
It is, but still, it's there's some, I don't know. It's the idea of it flipping CryptoPunk seems almost unimaginable, just because, or maybe it's a catalyst for CryptoPunks to create a new separation of value. It's if it's starting to get close to it, maybe that signals that the CryptoPunks are undervalued somehow. Right?
Sure.
Because I mean, it's the historical, origin point to all of this. But
yeah, but nonetheless, the point is that 300 million market cap. We've seen these before.
Yeah, and this is different. This is objectively way different than all the other NFTs on that list, right? This has, again, the hybrid token approach where there's fungible tokens that are directly one-for-one interchangeable with these NFTs. Therefore, they have access to liquidity that typical NFTs do not.
Yeah, correct.
Meaning these DEX rails, centralized exchange rails, even perps. So, this token could be on hyperliquid and
That's
people
true.
can be trading, perps for Stonkbroker coin like that. You can't do that with,
Yeah.
Bored Apes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so doing really well. All-time highs right now. And but there's something else brewing. Michael Hirsch, he says, I'm excited to announce that we'll be building Mansur, the Jupiter of Robinhood Chain, in partnership with Clutch Markets.
Mm-hmm.
It says Mansur launches with a token plus NFT powered by Anvil. 75% of the NFTs will be minted. 25% is reserved to back the token LP. And launching on Stonk Brokers Launchpad next week. The only way onto the free mint allow list is to burn, and the window is live on chain mansurs.xyz. So 25,000 hoodle,
Right.
150 slop, or 1 slunk.
Which is an NFT. So yeah, that was the parameters of how to get, I guess, a whitelist secured. But yeah, fortunately, it's too late. All those spots have been claimed, and if you're watching this, I think the mint is scheduled for like any minute now.
Yeah.
Today, so the mint will likely have happened, and we'll be trading on secondary, right?
Yeah. For those who did catch it, if you were wanting to buy one of these whitelist spots, they're about $1,000 in the Excel market.
Yeah, the OTC markets. It reminds me of NatCat days.
Yeah,
remember people in the Discord flipping NatCats before they got to Magic Eden?
that's right.
And he got as high as like, I don't know, I want to say like
6,000.
just on the Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Excel spreadsheets. It's pretty wild. So it's happening again, and that should tell you something, right? Tells us something. There's obvious like fervor and appetite for this stuff, to where people, they don't have any problem putting forth some capital to get access to these mints, right?
Yeah. So it launches today, and $1,000 per whitelist. But everyone chasing the whitelist needs to remember 50% of Mansur LPs is being paid to Stonk Brokers. That's the whole point of doing this collaboration, is that they're leveraging the community that Stonk Brokers has generated.
Yeah.
And if they do well, Stonk Brokers does well.
Right.
And 30% of Mansur fees flow into the Stonk Broker and get paid out into activated brokers. So yes, catch the play and you'll do well, but you won't catch every single play. So just get a Stonk Brokers, and then you
just kind of don't have to do much.
Yeah, take advantage of the network effect.
Yeah, which we've seen this a lot in crypto's past, and we're going to bring up at the very end of this video here, like a very, I don't know, like a good poster child representation of like what building a superpower network effect looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That way you kind of have like a better picture of like what the ceiling may look like here, right?
Yeah. So Michael Hirsch comes from the ETH Inscriptions.
Yeah, remember that?
We interviewed one of these guys. Was it Michael Hirsch?
No, I think he's like the dev, one of the core devs.
Okay.
Inscriptions. It was somebody else, but yeah, that was whenever Ordinals was happening, and then essentially inscriptions started happening on Ethereum.
Yeah, the inscription pandemic.
Yes.
Started spreading to every chain.
This was several years ago now.
Yeah.
At this point. But yeah, this is the dev who was behind that and now behind this.
Yeah, so Mansur is looking pretty good here.
Yeah, this is the interface for, essentially is like a Jupiter clone, but there are some core differentiators, I think. It's like a non-custodial version of Jupiter, where it's like, you're just signing like, transactions that don't actually hold your funds. Your funds stay in your wallet, but like the execution of that is facilitated, secondary, and that way there's less risks involved. As we've been seeing lately, because of AI, there's been a lot more exploits, and smart contracts are definitely a
prime target.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, so he wrote a white paper. It says settlement without escrow, a DEX of signed orders with enforced price floors, and the Keeper network that will run it. So you're part of the Keeper network as part of this.
Yeah, if you own one of the NFTs.
Yeah.
So it's different than Stonk Brokers, right? It's not like the intent here isn't to like distribute stock tokens. I don't think there's any stock token flywheel here.
Correct.
It's a new DEX protocol on Robinhood, which is a primitive. It's a needed thing. If it does well and generates revenue, all it is redistributing a portion of that to people who own the NFTs, which serve some function here.
Right.
Which is cool. So it's like another use case of Anvil, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's Stonkbrokers, and it says, got an idea that could make the Stonkbrokers ecosystem better. Share it with us. The best ideas don't stay ideas. They get picked up by the team and can become special projects built together with the community. And so if you have an idea that wants to leverage the ecosystem and contribute to the ecosystem that, is his own thing, I'm sure the Simple Farmer will accommodate.
Yeah, this is it's kind of represents how these, like, what do they call partner projects or special projects, how they're falling in line, right? Because we already saw Derp.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing Mansur, and we're about to talk about another one. So there's this is the process of how you get form this allegiance, if you will.
Yeah.
With the ecosystem of stockbrokers.
So here's another one: clock in, airdrops, deflationary tokenomics, and stock token pairings. This is born from the Stonkbroker brand and pushed relentlessly by its community. The clock-in mantra has become one of the most recognizable expressions on crypto Twitter, which is the biggest part of Twitter, right? Crypto? No, it's not.
Well, for us.
For us, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
We're transforming the expression into a token of its own, launching through the Stonk launcher, built to become a long-term companion to Stonkbroker and marketing lever for the wider ecosystem being built around it.
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more just like a social/cultural, tie-in to the already existing stockbroker thing, right? But again, latching itself to that by incentivizing existing stockbrokers to, hold portions of this token so that you get some added perks and benefits. So it's just a continuation of this theme, right? If you own a stockbroker, clearly there's value to that. I mean, it's not just reflected in the leaderboard itself on the NFT market. It's like this demand for, outside developers to come in and like plug themselves in basically and like service you in a sense. Like if we do well, you do well. It's kind of like I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, right? Yep. And if you get enough of those, and stockbrokers, they could be slurping pretty hard, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that is kind of the point of crypto is it creates the ability to align incentives.
Correct, and bring in all these like composable parts and create a super web of a network. Right?
Yeah,
we saw it with Ethereum, right? And everybody came in, it's like, dude, Ethereum's the shit. Smart contracts are great. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna build a protocol. Somebody sees that, it's like, you know what? I could build a protocol over here that does this to your things, and then before you know it, you've got billions of dollars. Yeah, billions of dollars locking their TVO on your chain.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at Cook's tweet here. This is part of the Stonkbroker thesis that no one is talking about. A large portion of the core holders are holding the NFT and have locked it up. Not only do they lose Stonkbroker tokens if they ever move it, but the core early communities, as Bored Ape, Yacht Club Whales, these guys want to hold the NFT. They get attached to the NFTs. They love NFTs. They have been waiting literal years to start posting about NFTs with a six-figure floor again. So they love this stuff. They'll never sell. So you have an illiquid supply token that constantly getting taken off the market and turned into NFTs. You have a token being burned to activate, and the activation is lost if the NFT is ever transferred. This creates scaling illiquidity in token supply. So beyond that, you have the first asset in crypto history that can be simultaneously listed on OpenSea, Uniswap, Hyperliquid, Perps, and Spot, and centralized exchanges.
Right. Yeah, which we just saw Robinhood list CashCat. So it's looking more viable.
Yeah.
That there could be a future, stockbrokers. I mean, right now, I think it's, besides CashCat, the highest valued token on that chain. I'm pretty sure the Robinhood team is paying attention. If they're paying attention to CashCat, they have to be paying attention to this, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, so we're going to show you a few seconds of this video. It's VFriends, we have, and Logan Paul. And they're talking about NFTs. And ultimately, what's interesting about this 5-minute discussion, they go back into the history of NFTs. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how only 7, 10 NFTs are only going to remain valuable and everything else is going to go to zero. Mm-hmm. But it's funny, they're talking about NFTs, but they're missing discussion around Stonkbrokers. So,
well, of course, these guys are the surface area dabblers. I would, maybe Gary Vee, not so much. Like he's actually for real been
Yeah, I think he does actually like NFTs, and I think Logan Paul does too.
Yeah, but like he likes it when it's hot, right?
Yeah.
Like, right now he's not going to be doing any like actual due diligence to find out like, what's being cooked up there. Not until like something shows up that's like generating, millions of dollars in revenue or something. And he's like, okay, I'm interested. But Gary Vee, he's actually been like, playing even during like this NFT winter, right, with his V friends and stuff.
Yeah. So let's like listen to the first few seconds here.
Do you want to talk about NFTs?
Please.
Because, man, I don't know why I still really believe in the idea of a valuable digital asset.
Why wouldn't you? I'm aware that 98% of the world thinks that it was a scam and a fad, including everybody probably behind the camera. But math doesn't lie. If every single person that's listening to this podcast right now goes to OpenSea, clicks collections, and looks at the sheer volume of NFTs being sold every day, they would shit their fucking pants today.
Oh, yeah, still.
Of course.
What kind of volume?
Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a day.
What, still?
Yes, and everyone on earth. Think about that volume. Think about that volume when literally every person on earth walking thinks it was a fad, a scam, a loss. So the blockchain digital collectible thing will be massive. I am thrilled to clip this in 9 years and be like, it's a collectible, bro.
I agree.
Yeah, so the idea here is that as soon as they start talking about Stonk Brokers, it's time to.
Well, yeah, because if you play out this clip long enough, which it's a 5-minute clip, so we're not going to do that. But they go through like, okay, there's 99% of NFTs will have died as I predicted because I'm Gary Vee and I'm awesome. I make cool predictions. But of the 1% that are still lingering around, it's because they have operators like me, fucking gangsters, bro. That's what he calls himself. So long as there's a gangster at the helm of an NFT collection, then it survives and it could potentially thrive into the future and be labeled as like the contextual Amazon or Google of the NFT space in 20 years from now, right? Like depending on what the operator actually ends up doing, right? So they name the usual suspects like, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Azukis, Pudgy Penguins, and then V-Friends. So, yeah, it's like here they are. These are very public figureheads of, like, all things culturally relevant, especially these guys, this Logan Paul fella. And they're talking about NFTs, but, yeah, it's like once they get into the realization that there's something new happening within the NFT space and they start kind of bantering about.
Yeah.
Which is not what they're doing right now. It's like this is a clear indication that,
so
still very early.
Had they peeked at this coin gecko chart here, and they would have been like, what is Stonk Brokers, right? I've never seen this before. What is Robinhood? I didn't even know that they had a chain here.
Yeah. So it's like you want to know where you are, right? If you're holding any of these assets, specifically a Stonk Broker, because, you're having these conflicting thoughts. Like if you're on crypto Twitter, you're seeing popular figureheads in our own community like Ansem and this Cook fella. These are, big social influencers of crypto. They're in.
Yeah.
They're regularly talking about this project. They probably hold bags of it. So that means like, they're all going to ride the wave up to $1 billion, right, guys?
Yeah.
Maybe not, just because like to me that adds a little bit of hesitancy just because typically it's things that like people don't see coming that like really run up to $1 billion.
Yeah.
Just because it like takes most people, specifically it takes influencers by surprise,
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but maybe this time that's not the case. Maybe everybody in crypto Twitter is like spot on.
Yeah, and so talking about the network effect, we saw something similar happening with AI16Z about 2 years ago when it was the most like starred GitHub in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then we saw what actually is a lot of stars, which was like OpenClaw.
Yeah, like 2 years later.
Yeah, but nonetheless, all the stars on GitHub led to a meme token called AI16Z to go to 2 billion market cap.
2.5 billion.
2.5 billion,
at its peak. Yeah, we started talking about it when it was trading around the same valuation where Stonk Brokers is today. It was around 40, 50 million market cap.
Yeah.
And we were taking notice of it because we were seeing like this is the most like fandomed open source AI initiative on GitHub, right?
Yeah.
And at the time and at the context of that time is there was no parallel to an OpenClaw, right? So like that was a big deal.
Yeah, correct.
And the fact that it was crypto native, an even bigger deal. I was like, damn, dude, crypto bros are cooking up something significant.
AI plus crypto.
Yeah.
So that's why it ran up to 2 billion. But the whole point is that if you're going to build something with AI and crypto, you have to use ELIZA OS to take part of the network effect.
Exactly. That's the parallel, right? It's like you're starting to kind of see like the beginnings of that in context of Stonk Brokers and the Robinhood ecosystem. So it's what you want to like kind of track. Like, is there a continuation of that? Meaning, because the launchpad isn't live yet, but it's coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Will more developers like flock to this launchpad, to this launch ecosystem? Can they launch successful projects that gain notoriety of their own and bring their own novel like innovations to the space?
Sure.
If they do, like that, these are all positive signs. Most likely will result in the continuation of the upside of the stockbroker asset itself.
Yeah.
And then that forms like a gravitational pull, the way ELIZA OS had back in these days, right? It was like, if you're building an AI agent and you weren't connecting it to this hub of activity, you just weren't noticed, you weren't recognized.
Yeah. So the question you might be having is like, but what about this other half, guys? This other 90% of the chart.
Yeah, let's not worry about that.
Yeah, don't think about this yet. We're not. Yeah.
Yeah, we're concerned about.
Yeah, we're over here. We're like this over here. This is wow.
Where's 40 million at?
27 million is right here, dude.
Yeah, so we're like a little.
Yeah,
bit,
right here. It's like at 40 million.
Yeah, so like if you go back and watch our first, AI 16Z videos, right around there, and then madness ensued, right? Where it's like, okay, the game is set. We know what to do. We know the task at hand. It's like, let's amplify the fuck out of this thing and let's build like a super cluster of activity around it. And so maybe history will repeat. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then that's why we're interested, right?
Yeah. So keep an eye on what's going on in Robinhood. If you guys find anything interesting happening on the Robinhood chain, let us know in the comment section below. And that's it for us. Appreciate you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.